Before the polar ice caps had begun melting, they were home to a variety of polar species, certain plants, and other forms of life, with one example being the polar bear. Sea levels had been much lower because the water had been frozen in glaciers, and the size of the ice caps had been at a much greater quantity, maintaining a healthy relationship between the ice caps and the Earth itself.
As we all may know, the Earth is warming, and it is warming fast. One of the major losses Earth's biosphere will face is the melting of our glaciers. As more greenhouse gases are emitted each year into our atmosphere, less of the sun's warmth is able to escape. In the past 200 years, CO2 levels in the atmosphere have increased by over 40% and methane by 200 to 300, according to the NSIDC. Greenhouse gases naturally keep the Earth from freezing by reflecting some of the sun's rays. However, this abnormal growth in greenhouse gas emissions have caused the atmosphere to trap more heat than necessary, raising the global temperature by 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Although it may not sound like a lot, at this rate, the Earth is expected to warm by 5 degrees in 2100. Think about the difference from a comfortable 75 degrees to a warm 80. As this warming continues, Earth's glaciers and ice sheets will continue to melt, causing a catastrophic chain of events.
Humanity's ecological footprint is interfering with possible glacial equilibrium, mainly because of recent modernization. As quoted, a study published in Journal Science has found between 1851 and 2010, humans were responsible for only around a quarter of the global loss of glacial mass. In the last 20 years of that period, the human contribution increased to 69%. This is the result of greenhouse gas emissions pushing up our global temperature.
As of right now, the major practices contributing to greenhouse gas emissions globally is electricity and heat production, agriculture, transportation, and industrialization, according to the EPA. If it weren't for the reckless damage we have inflicted on our Earth's resources, today's conditions would look a lot different. Once our glaciers melt, the ocean and life inside or outside will be at risk.
Greenhouse gas emissions continue to rise at the current rate. The current ice loss from the Arctic could push sea levels up by 1 to 37 centimeters. At this rate, the consequences of these events could be extremely dangerous, depending on the planet's future condition.
Although glaciers do not necessarily have a large purpose, the melting of it can be catastrophic if the current condition is not controlled. Humans will experience flooding due to increased sea levels, causing more cities across the globe to look like Venice. Runoff, which causes flooding, can contaminate reservoirs and agricultural land. On a large scale, this would cause disease and famine. Furthermore, the melting can unleash ancient, potentially deadly viruses and bacteria that affect all forms of life on the surface. As for life below, marine animals will be just as greatly impacted. Increased sea levels hinders coral reefs' ability to photosynthesize because sunlight would have a harder time reaching the zooxanthella, or photosynthetic algae. But it doesn't stop there. Because coral reefs are the most major marine ecosystem, life that depends on them will likely die off, decreasing biodiversity. All of these consequences, however, are preventable. It is still not too late to make a difference.
However, there are ways we can prevent the worst. By reducing the use of fossil fuels by using other energy sources like solar power or wind power, we can control rising temperatures by ridding of excess greenhouse gases. Another solution would be carbon capture technology, which is a relatively new concept that involves capturing large quantities of carbon dioxide at its source and storing it in specially contained areas. This is done by a number of methods, such as absorption and adsorption technologies, which uses the chemical reactions that the molecules undergo to contain the gases. All in all, with time and proper dedication, these methods will reduce the rising temperature and in turn, allow for the ice caps to replenish. Love the world as your own self, and you can truly care for all things.